At a small convenience store, a single mother works the night shift just to care for her sick daughter. But when a blind stranger stumbles in, lost and trembling, she breaks the rules to help him and gets fired on the spot. Just a few hours later, at 3 a.m., military vehicles surround her building and a general knocks on her door. What she doesn't know is that the man she helped wasn't just some lost blind stranger. He was something far greater, and today he's back to open a door that will change her life forever. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear your thoughts. 11:00 p.m., Beckridge, Pennsylvania, an old steel town long since broken by recession, storms, and time. The fluorescent lights in the Quick Mart buzzed overhead like lazy hornets, cold, white, unkind. Lena Martinez, 34, hunched over the front counter, eyes heavy, back aching. Her hands raw and cracked from cold and overwork, stuffed a dented display of off-brand cough drops. Third night in a row. Same graveyard shift, same forgotten corner of a town nobody remembered. Outside, the wind howled like it had teeth. Rain tapped at the windows in slow, uneven bursts. February in Beckridge was cruel like that. Wet, bitter, without apology. Behind her, the old wall clock ticked its judgment, 11:02 p.m. 2 more hours until she could return to the drafty attic she and her daughter called home. An afterthought room above her friend's garage, rented week to week. Rosie, 8 years old, slept there tonight, with a space heater that coughed more than it warmed. Lena's stomach grumbled, but she ignored it. They'd split a can of soup earlier, what was left after Rosie's fever meds. You can't eat worry, Lena often thought, but it sure keeps you full. The chime above the front door jingled, thin and sharp. Lena looked up instinctively. A man entered, slow, deliberate. Not old, but aged, wrapped in a threadbare army coat too big for his narrow frame. He wore dark sunglasses despite the hour, and a long black scarf partially covered his face. In his left hand, a white mobility cane tapped gently against the tile, uncertain. His right hand trembled, hovering in the air like reaching for something he couldn't quite name. "Hello?" His voice cracked. Is anyone working here?" Lena dropped the cough drops. "Yes, sir, I'm here," she called, stepping out from behind the counter. "Take your time. How can I help you tonight?" The man's shoulders slumped just a bit, as though hearing her voice unclenched something he'd held tight for hours. I need something to eat. Soup, maybe. Some water. Not much. Sorry, I'm still adjusting." He gestured vaguely toward his eyes, then looked away reflexively. "No need to apologize," Lena said, soft but steady. "I've got you." She stepped toward him. "I'm Lena." He offered a hand, slightly too far to the left. She gently guided it to hers. His palm was cold, dry, worn. "Dean," he replied. "Dean Harper." Lena nodded, even though he couldn't see. "Let's get you set up, Dean. Do you like chicken noodle?" "That'd be perfect," he murmured. She moved slowly through the aisles, narrating each item. "Soup, bottled water, day-old bread we keep on discount. Here's a clean towel, still in the plastic wrap. We got a shipment last week." Dean followed close, tapping carefully. "I used to fix gas lines. Thought I'd retire in 5 years. Then there was a rupture. Next thing I knew, blash. Smoke, pressure, blindness." Lena's chest tightened. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "My cousin worked rigs in West Virginia. Similar thing. He made it out, his buddy didn't." "Sometimes," Dean said, "I think I made it out, but I didn't really make it." By the time they reached the counter, Dean's hands shook visibly. He pulled a folded stack of bills from his coat, worn thin at the creases. 1s, 5s, maybe a few 10s, all mixed. "I can't tell them apart yet," he said, voice full of embarrassment. Lena took the cash, gently. "No worries, I'll count it for you." That's when the back door banged open. "What the hell is this?" Colin Matthews, her manager, stormed out, cheeks red from either cold or whatever video game he'd been playing in the office. His eyes darted between Lena and the stranger. "I was helping this customer," Lena started. I can see that, Colin barked. And the register's been empty for 6 damn minutes. 6? You know the policy, Dean tried to interject. She was helping me. I asked her. Not your concern, Colin cut him off. You're not her boss. He turned back to Lena, eyes narrowing. You think this is a shelter? A soup kitchen? This is a business, Lena, not your charity project. I've warned you before. I'm done. You're firing me? Colin folded his arms. You want to help strangers? Do it on your own time. Clock out. You're done here? Lena stood frozen for a moment. She looked at Dean, whose mouth was slightly agape behind the scarf, expression unreadable. Then she slowly nodded, turned back to the till and counted out the right change from Dean's bills. She handed him the bag, then took a napkin and scribbled her number on it. If you ever need help again, just call. I'll do what I can. Dean's hand found hers again. His grip was firmer this time. I'm sorry, he said again, like he was the one who'd done something wrong. Lena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's okay. Something better always comes, eventually. As she grabbed her old jacket and canvas bag from beneath the counter, she didn't cry, but something inside her, something small and hopeful, began to crack. She stepped into the night, rain hitting her face like needles. The camera lingered for a beat on the Help Wanted sign already taped beside the door. Rain clung to Lena's jacket like regret, cold, persistent, and impossible to shake off. She didn't rush. There was no reason to. She wasn't racing toward warmth or comfort, just a dim attic room with peeling paint, thin walls, and a borrowed mattress on the floor. With every step, her canvas bag thumped lightly against her side, carrying the weight of one crumpled uniform, half a sandwich she didn't eat, and the remains of a long, humiliating shift. Behind her, the flickering sign of the Quick Mart buzzed in the darkness. She didn't look back. Halfway across the cracked parking lot, a voice broke through the silence behind her. Wait. She turned, shoulders stiff. Dean Harper stood a few paces away beneath the overhang, his coat sagging under the rain. The scarf around his neck had loosened, revealing a face not just blind but exhausted, drawn and quietly desperate. I'm sorry, he said, his cane tapping uncertainly at the wet concrete. You shouldn't have lost your job because of me. Lena didn't respond immediately. The rain whispered between them. Then she offered the smallest of half-smiles, wry, bitter, and tired. You didn't fire me, Dean. A broken system did. You just reminded me why it's broken. Dean stood there, gripping the handle of his cane with both hands like it was the only thing anchoring him to the earth. I shouldn't have come in alone. I thought I was ready. I needed to try, but I still messed things up. You didn't mess up anything, Lena said flatly. You're trying to live. That's not a crime. They stood beneath a sagging metal awning behind the store, rain dripping through a hole above them, landing in rhythmic plunks onto a trash bin nearby. Lena shoved her hands into her pockets and leaned back against the brick wall. I lost everything 3 months ago. Storm knocked out our apartment building. Rosie and I got out with what we could carry in 2 bags. That's it. Since then we've been climbing. But the ladder keeps breaking. Dean listened quietly, face turned toward her, his expression unreadable. She didn't know what made her say it. Maybe it was the rain, or the humiliation still burning in her chest, or just the fact that for once someone wasn't interrupting her. My daughter's got a cough that won't quit. I've got half a bottle of over-the-counter stuff and $6 left after tonight, so yeah. She exhaled slowly. I helped you because I knew what it's like to be the one no one wants to help. Dean reached into his pocket. I don't have much, he said carefully, but this is my number. If you ever need something, anything, I'd like to try. He held out a small, damp piece of paper. The writing was shaky, the ink slightly smudged. Lena took it, folding it without looking. She didn't have the heart to tell him she wasn't sure what she'd even do with a phone number that might not be reachable tomorrow, depending on whether her prepaid ran out. Thanks, she said simply, but I think we're both the kind of people that others expect to just figure it out. Dean offered a hollow chuckle. Guess that makes us dangerous. The rain thickened. Lena checked her watch. 11:51 p.m. She needed to get home. Rosie might wake up and worry. "Take care of yourself, Dean." She turned, walking away before the conversation could sag under the weight of what neither of them had said. Behind her, she heard the slow tap of Dean's cane, fading in the opposite direction. By the time she climbed the narrow stairs to the attic, Lena's coat was soaked through. Inside, the space smelled faintly of mildew and lavender fabric softener. Her friend had tried to make it less miserable. Rosie lay curled under a threadbare blanket, cheeks flushed and damp with sweat. Lena dropped to her knees beside the mattress. The little girl stirred and whimpered, then turned her face into her mother's arm. Her breath came in short puffs. Fever again. Lena pressed the back of her hand to Rosie's forehead. Still warm, still worrying. She pulled the blanket up to her daughter's chin, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. The panic didn't rise all at once. It crept in quietly as she stared at the ceiling. Rent was due in 2 days. She'd just lost her only income. And Rosie was getting sicker. Her fingers clenched the blanket. Maybe she could call Dean tomorrow, see if he knew any local clinics. Maybe. Her phone buzzed sharply, startling her. It lit up beside the sleeping bag near the wall. She grabbed it, heart racing. Was it her friend downstairs, a spam text? But the screen read, "Incoming call, lobby, Beckridge property manager." She hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A nervous voice crackled on the other end. "Miss Martinez? Sorry to call so late. There are some people here, from the military. They're asking to speak with you, immediately." Lena sat up, every nerve in her body turning to ice. "The military?" she repeated. "Yes, ma'am. There's a general down here, with stars on his shoulders. Said this can't wait until morning." She stared at the phone for a second too long. Her reflection in the black screen looked ghost-like. Outside, through the attic's cracked window, headlights cut across the alley. At least 3 vehicles had pulled into the parking lot. Lena stood slowly, blood pounding in her ears. She didn't know what was happening, but someone, somewhere, had been watching. Lena's hands trembled as she twisted the old doorknob. The attic hallway behind her smelled faintly of dust and wet socks. But what lay on the other side of that door felt more foreign than anything she had faced in months of hardship. She had no idea what to expect. When the door creaked open, she froze. 4 people stood there. 4 uniformed military officers in full-dress attire, as still and serious as if they were standing in the Pentagon, not outside a worn-out attic in Beckridge, Pennsylvania. The man in front, tall, broad-shouldered, silver-haired, his chest decorated with medals, stepped forward. His presence filled the narrow hallway with a kind of silent authority that made Lena's breath catch. "Miss Lena Martinez?" he asked, his voice firm but not unkind. Yes, she replied, gripping the door for balance. "I'm Major General Brian Calloway," he said, offering a gloved hand. "I apologize for the hour and the dramatic entrance, but this matter couldn't wait until morning." Behind him stood a younger woman, sharp eyes, neatly pulled back hair, and a calm, unreadable face. Lena recognized her almost immediately. It was the woman from the parking lot outside the Quick Mart, the one who'd been leaning against the black sedan that night. "This is Lieutenant Naomi Green," the general continued. "She's part of our Oversight and Personnel Affairs Division, and the others here are senior members of our Military Family Support Corps." Lena blinked, struggling to find her voice. "Why are you here? I mean, what's this about?" The general glanced at the woman beside him, then back at Lena. "May we come in? This is best discussed in private." Still stunned, Lena stepped aside and ushered them into the tiny attic room. She quietly adjusted the blanket over Rosie, who was still asleep on the floor mattress, unaware of the uniforms now surrounding her. The military officials gently took seats wherever they could, on the small desk chair, the floor near the window, even an overturned laundry basket. General Calloway looked directly at Lena. "Miss Martinez, the man you helped last night at the store, the one who called himself Dean Harper, is not who he said he was." Lena's heart dropped. "He wasn't. Dangerous, was he?" "No. Naomi said quickly, her voice even. Not at all, quite the opposite. General Calloway leaned forward. Dean Harper is in fact Lieutenant Colonel Dean Harper, one of the most decorated special operations officers in recent military history. His missions are classified, but I can tell you he's saved dozens of lives, American and foreign, across multiple deployments. Lena stared at them, the words not quite computing. 3 months ago, Naomi continued, he was involved in a covert rescue operation overseas. The building he entered exploded. Shrapnel caused damage to both retinas. His prognosis is temporary blindness, but he's set to undergo corrective surgery in 2 weeks. He's been recovering at our rehabilitation facility since then. He wasn't supposed to be out last night, Calloway added. He left without clearance. Apparently he wanted to test himself, to see if he could navigate the world alone. It wasn't protocol, but we allowed it, discreetly. We had eyes on him the entire time, we just didn't expect what we saw. Lena looked down, stunned. You were watching me? The general nodded. We reviewed the Quick Mart security footage. Every moment, every word. We watched as you treated him with dignity. No pity, no hesitation, just basic human decency. Even when it cost you your job. Naomi leaned in slightly. You saw someone struggling. You chose to help, even knowing it could backfire. That's not as common as you think. Lena rubbed her forehead. I didn't think it was special, it just felt right. Exactly, Calloway said. And that's why we're here. He pulled a folder from his coat and set it on the small folding table near the radiator. We have an opening at the base nearby, just outside Pittsburgh, Civilian Family Liaison Coordinator. It's a full-time role within our Military Family Support Division. The job is designed for people who can connect with the spouses and children of active-duty soldiers, especially those dealing with injury, loss, or major transitions. It requires compassion, communication, and moral clarity, Naomi continued. The position offers full medical benefits, housing on base, educational support for dependents, and a starting salary of $67,000 per year. Lena's eyes widened, her mouth opened, then closed again. Why me? Because Harper asked for you, Calloway said, simply. And because after we looked into your background, your work history, your volunteer hours at your daughter's school, your record of caring for your father during his illness, we realized you were exactly what we needed, the kind of person who does the right thing when no one's watching. Lena covered her mouth with one hand, trying to hold back a wave of disbelief. Her throat tightened. She looked over at Rosie, still asleep beneath a threadbare blanket. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine more than just survival. A home, stability, a future. Naomi offered her a gentle smile. Sometimes the system works backward, Lena. Sometimes it sees what's right and moves. General Calloway rose, buttoning his coat. We won't pressure you, but we needed you to know how much it meant, to Harper and to all of us, that you stood up when it was hard. If you accept, we'll handle everything. Relocation, training, support. Lena nodded slowly, as if afraid the moment might vanish if she moved too quickly. I'd like to say yes. I just need to let it sink in. Take your time, Naomi said, but not too long. We have a place ready for you. As the officers quietly left the attic, Lena followed them to the top of the stairs. The hallway was still dim, but the window at the far end showed the first hints of dawn, a soft blue light creeping over Beckridge's ruined rooftops. She didn't know what waited on the other side of this decision, but for the first time in a very long time, she wasn't afraid. 3 days later, the sky above Beckridge was dull and flat like a rusted sheet of tin. Cold wind whispered down the empty sidewalks as Lena stepped off the bus near the Quick Mart. Her coat, though still plain and a bit worn, had been freshly laundered, zipped to the top. A small laminated badge peeked from her front pocket. United Forces Family Support Division, Civilian Liaison. The automatic doors opened with a familiar squeak as she walked inside. The store was almost empty, quiet, sterile, humming with fluorescent fatigue. Colin Matthews looked up from the register, his usual scowl already forming before recognition even clicked. The man hadn't changed, still wearing the same wrinkled polo, still tapping the side of the scanner like it was the machine's fault when it misread a barcode. He blinked when he saw her. His jaw clenched, then dropped slightly. "You're not supposed to be here," he muttered, reaching slowly toward the store phone. "If you're here to cause trouble, I'll call security." Lena raised one hand calmly. "Relax, Colleen. I'm just here as a customer, not asking for anything." Suspicion lingered on his face, but he let his hand fall away from the phone. "Make it quick." Lena walked the short aisle, picked up a bottle of water from the cooler, same spot where she'd once stocked drinks on back-to-back graveyards, and returned to the counter. The Help Wanted sign was still taped beside the register, now curling at the corners. "That'll be $1.79, Colin mumbled, not meeting her eyes. She handed him exact change. No rush, no drama. But as he reached for the receipt, she set something else down on the counter. Crisp white business card, military insignia embossed in silver, her name printed clean beneath it. Colin squinted at it. Then his fingers stiffened. He picked up the card, read the words again. His mouth moved, but nothing came out at first. "Is this real?" Lena's tone remained neutral, almost kind. "Very real. I've been offered a federal position. Lieutenant Colonel Harper, remember him? Recommended me personally. Seems the footage from your security cameras was enlightening." Color drained from Colin's face. He swallowed hard. "The footage?" She nodded. "They saw how I spoke to him, how I helped, how I was fired in front of him for showing basic human decency." His voice caught. I didn't know he was military." Lena tilted her head slightly. "Would it have mattered?" Colin looked away. She continued, her voice measured. "You told me this place wasn't a charity. You were right. It's not. But kindness isn't charity, Colin. It's humanity, and sometimes when you show it, it comes back to you in ways you never imagined. That night you saw weakness. They saw strength." He shifted uncomfortably, now fidgeting with the edge of the register tape. "So, you're working with them now? Like full-time?" He smiled for the first time, a soft private smile. "Starting next week. Housing on base. Rosie gets to go to school there. We'll have health insurance, stability, a life, not just survival." Colin glanced at the Help Wanted sign, then back at her. "Hard to find good night staff," he mumbled. "I bet it is," she replied. There was silence between them, a silence more awkward for him than for her. Then, as she picked up the water bottle and turned to leave, she paused. "Oh, and Colin?" He looked up, still holding the card like it might explode. "I'd rethink your approach to disabled customers, or really any customers. You never know who they are or who they might become." She didn't wait for a response. The door opened with that same squeak as she stepped back into the wind. Behind her she could hear the frantic beeping of the register, followed by the sharp click of Colin's fingers dialing the phone. Probably corporate, maybe security, maybe nobody at all. But Lena didn't care. She wasn't the same woman who had left this place in the rain. As she crossed the street toward the bus stop, the clouds above her broke just enough to let a beam of pale sunlight spill across the sidewalk. The attic was nearly bare now. The faded curtain that once fluttered with every draft had been taken down and folded neatly into a box marked "Donate." The cracked mirror above the tiny sink reflected Lena's tired face. Only this time there was no weight behind her eyes, just quiet certainty. Rosie sat cross-legged on the mattress, her favorite stuffed bear tucked under one arm, watching her mother pack the last of their things. "Are we really moving today?" she asked for the third time, her voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. Lena smiled, tucking a pair of socks into a side pocket of her daughter's backpack. "Yes, baby. This afternoon. They'll be sending a car to pick us up." "To the army place?" Rosie's eyebrows arched. "Where the soldiers live?" "Where some of them live, yes." Lena sat down beside her, brushing a stray curl from Rosie's forehead. We'll have a house on base. Your school will be right there too, with kids whose parents work with the military, just like I will now." Rosie looked thoughtful. "Will there be other girls like me?" Lena paused, then nodded. "Absolutely. Girls and boys who know what it means to move a lot, to wait for their parents to come home, to start over. You'll make friends, Rosie, good ones." There was a long silence as the child considered this new reality. Then she whispered, "And the man you helped, the one with the scarf, he's really a hero?" Lena looked down at the floorboards, worn from years of other tenants coming and going. "Yes," she said quietly. "His name is Lieutenant Colonel Dean Harper. He's been through more than most people can imagine. But he's still standing, just like us." Rosie tilted her head. "Will I get to meet him?" "You will," Lena said. "Tomorrow, in fact. He wants to say thank you, but really, I should be the one thanking him." Rosie wrapped her arms around her mother's neck and hugged her tight. "I knew you were special," she murmured. "Daddy always said your heart was bigger than the whole world." Lena closed her eyes, holding her daughter close. Her throat ached. It had been 4 years since the construction accident. 4 years of figuring it out alone. Nights of skipped meals, overdue rent, emergency rooms, and praying to a God she wasn't always sure listened. "I'm not special," she said finally, her voice thick with emotion. "I just did what anyone should do." "But they don't," Rosie said simply. "You did." Lena pulled back, wiping a tear from her cheek with the back of her hand. "That's what makes you special." Outside, a low rumble echoed through the alley, an SUV pulling into the driveway below. The driver stepped out, military cap tucked beneath one arm, and looked up at the building. "It's time," Lena said softly. She zipped the last suitcase and stood, taking one last glance around the attic. The room hadn't changed. It was still small, still cold, still borrowed. But something in her had shifted. She no longer saw it as a prison, just a place she had passed through. As they stepped outside, the air felt different, lighter, crisper. The sky above Beckridge had opened up to a soft blue, streaked with early morning sunlight, the kind of sky that didn't promise perfection but hinted just maybe at something better ahead. Rosie squeezed her mother's hand as they walked toward the waiting car. "Do you think the new place will have curtains?" she asked innocently. Lena laughed. "Probably, but if not, we'll find some. Maybe even ones with flowers." The SUV door closed with a quiet click. As the vehicle pulled away from the curb, Lena didn't look back, because this time, she wasn't leaving something behind. She was stepping into something she had always deserved. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.